Hey everyone, I'm outside today because it's a really nice day out here. And I'm going to go over something I've been wanting to go over for a while. My Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham comics and books. Let's see, I want to talk a little bit about when I first discovered Spider-Ham. It was years ago. We were at my great-grandmother's house. We were going through stuff in the closet and we found a whole bunch of our relatives' old comic books. There was a whole bunch of like Archie comics. There were Richie Rich comics. Most of that stuff didn't really interest me that much. Like I liked Archie, so I took a bunch of Archie comics and the old Richie Riches and stuff, but other than that, there wasn't really anything that super appealed to me. There was a couple of DC superhero comics in there. But the thing that I thought was really cool was I found Peter Porker. I had never heard of Peter Porker before. I grew up with the Spider-Man cartoon in the 90s and Spider-Man Unlimited. I think the first of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies was out. I didn't really care for it. Yeah, it was weird. I didn't like the live-action movies for some reason. I had a very small collection of Spider-Man comics. I had some reprints of some of the really old Amazing Spider-Man stuff. But Peter Porker, that was something new. I had never heard of it, and I was really fascinated. What is this thing? So, I don't have those particular issues anymore, but I bought the Complete Collection Volume 1 and Complete Collection Volume 2. So the first volume has 1 through 17 of the original Peter Porker's Spider-Ham series. I think it's the entire series. So anyway, that one issue I read, one of the cool things about, oh yeah, actually there were two issues that were in that collection, and I found a few later on at a dollar store and at yard sales and stuff, and before I finally got this collection. One of the cool things with those was that in the back they would have other like little comic parodies of other Marvel comics. Let's see, the ones I remember were Iron Mouse, which was an Iron Man parody, and then there was Awful Flight, which was an Alpha Flight parody, which was really cool to me because I was a big fan of Alpha Flight. I had some Alpha Flight comics, and I'll talk about those some other time, but anyway, this Peter Porker was such a cool comic to me. I really enjoyed it. It was really interesting to me that like the characters seemed to be like just their own characters. One of the weird things at the Daily Bugle, there were these weirdos that worked with J. Jonah Jameson. I didn't know who they were. My assumption when I was a kid was that, oh, these must have been characters back in the original comics or something, right? No, they're just made up for this. They didn't really pre-exist in the Marvel Universe. They were just some weirdos that only existed in Peter Porker, which I thought was cool. And so then here's the Complete Collection Volume 2, which collects a lot of like other appearances he's made throughout the years. There's the Peter Porker Complete Collection books. I don't know if there's gonna be another Complete Collection book. This one's pretty thorough, and there hasn't really been a whole lot since then. Peter Porker picked up in popularity a lot when he was featured in the Spider-Verse movie. I like the Spider-Verse movie. I wasn't super into the way they did Peter Porker in there, since in the comic, he himself wasn't a super goofy character. He was kind of the straight man to all the goofy stuff around him. It was basically the premise and concept was more goofy than the character itself. So in Spider-Verse, I don't think Peter Porker really fit the same Peter Porker I knew from the comics. But moving on from there, there's this mini-series comic, Spider-Ham Apocalypse Now. This was definitely more in line with the Spider-Verse version of Peter Porker, more than the original one, since in the original comic, yeah, there were silly things that happened and like incompetent superhero jokes, but for the most part, Peter Porker was a pretty standard hero. Like, he worked within the rules of that world, whereas here, he's more portrayed as incompetent and very silly and not responsible, and it's, yeah, not quite the Peter Porker from the original comics. It was still good, but yeah. And then there's some other, like, little comics here. Let's see, this one, Spider-Verse Spider-Ham, is it's like some reprints of the original comics, then some newer comics, like just a whole bunch of comics from like across all of his appearances, just about. Then there's this one, Graphics Chapters, which yeah, it's like a simplified comic book for really little kids. It's fine. Reminds me of like the Spidey Super Stories comics, which were simplified Spider-Man comics. And then last up for Peter Porker stuff is this Little Golden Book one. Yeah, this is weird. Let's take a look inside here. The illustrations are good. It's definitely, yeah, kind of just all over the place in terms of like what they adapt. J. Jonah Jackal has a bit of a different look here. He's not quite like how he used to look. Also kind of weird. I don't see those other guys that worked at the Daily Bugle anywhere. That's one of the weirdest things in some of the newer Peter Porker stuff. Those other characters that worked at the Bugle, they're not in here. I don't know why. Did modern writers just not like them or something? Or I don't know. So yeah, there's my Peter Porker stuff. This was fun to talk about, so I guess that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.